Hey everyone, it's Laura Madsen, and I am back with my 5 and 5. So it's not like perfectly 5 and 5, but maybe close enough. So anyway, today I am going to be talking about one of the 4 pillars that I talk about in the book, Disrupting Data Governance. And look at me, I'm like Vanna White. Anyway, there are 4 pillars that I talk about in disrupting data governance: people, process, technology, and culture. And today I'm going to be talking about the people. So first and foremost, you're going to need some. I think, some of the challenges with data governance in the past, particularly the traditional ways of thinking about data governance, where you have a data steward for every primary data domain, where you have just a ton of almost like overhead in terms of people, right? I mean, if you have 400 data domains, you theoretically need 400 data stewards. And then you try to tack it on to their day job, and then, it didn't work that way because everybody's already got a day job, so they didn't, it wasn't ever really committed to the way that it probably needed to be committed to. So first and foremost, without question, you're going to need some people. But I think one of the key attributes of this new way of thinking about data governance is we need to create a responsive and resilient way of managing data governance. And when we used to think about it like having a chief data steward with all of your, data stewards with primary data domains, you ended up running into a situation where you'd need so many, and then that chief data steward became a linchpin, essentially. The person would know so much about everything: data sources, definitions, where the bodies are buried in your data quality, the whole thing where we can't use May of 2018 because that was the month that we did a system update and the data disappeared, or there's random things that happen. And the problem with that chief data steward being sort of that linchpin is when that person would leave, which invariably happens, whether they leave because they can't take the pressure anymore, or they leave because they got a better opportunity, people leave organizations. And the challenge I have seen, and when I work with my clients, they say to me all the time, like, this person left and that was it. It was all over. So we have got to figure out a way to get around that linchpin idea. Um, so what you need is you need some people, but it can't be a linchpin. You can't put everything onto one person that knows everything about all of your data. So think about them more like product owners, right? So they're responsible for editing your backlog, they're responsible for collecting activities, they're responsible for identifying obstacles and helping to remove those, but they are not the person that knows everything and directs everything. Let's talk a little bit about stewards and stewardship. We used to, like I said, we sort of had these stewards for data domains, and they were, they knew everything. Talk about knowing where the bodies are buried. They knew everything about those data sources, and they were a critically important role. But we never really gave them a defined role. It's very few organizations had data stewards sitting around doing that work. So what I propose is that we have this concept of everyone's a data steward. And I know that sounds kind of crazy, and when I talk to my clients about it, they look at me like, sure, Madsen, that's going to work. But just think about it like this. As you're looking at a report or a dashboard, you're always looking at it critically, and you're trying to figure out what it means and how you can use it. And sometimes you look at it and you're like, gosh, that doesn't look right. In that moment, we're all data stewards. It's not a job or a role, it's everybody's function. We're all responsible to make sure that we're presenting the data in the right way, that the context is good, that we have the ability to look at that data and understand it and make the right kinds of decisions to drive insights for our organizations. And if we can't allow everybody to be a data steward for those 15 minutes they're taking a look at the dashboard, then we're really doing ourselves a disservice, because the more people that think about it that way, the better your data quality is going to be in the long run. So really encourage you to think about everybody sort of being a data steward, even if it's for 10 or 15 minutes a day. In terms of people and the role of people in your organization, executive ownership needs to change drastically. It used to be that we'd have this executive sponsor and they'd come and bless it, and maybe every once in a while we'd sit with them and talk with them about how things are going. our executive sponsors need to have a lot bigger role in the function of data governance, and primarily because when those all important doors shut, the person that is the product owner for data governance usually isn't in the room, and the executive folks are. And sometimes they have to make really tough calls about what gets cut and what doesn't get cut. And we have not always been great at communicating the importance of data governance to our executive sponsors. So I really think we need to be putting our executive sponsors in a role where they're the primary defenders of data governance, not that linchpin person. So we have a product owner and we have a very engaged executive sponsor that really understands and is the primary responsible person for driving the value of data governance to their peers. And finally, organizational alignment. This is always the elephant in the room. I get asked probably once a week, well, how should I organize my analytics function? Every organization is different. But what I will say for sure is the fewer barriers we have between governance and analytics and the people that are responsible for the data assets and organizational alignment up to an executive level, the better off you're going to be. And there's lots of different ways to do that, but you need to remove those barriers so that people have the ability to remove obstacles so that we can drive insight from the value of the data and improve our return on investment. So that is our 5 and 5 today, and thanks for listening.